Most people, meron silang love or hate relationship with stance. Maybe you've owned a stance car and you loved it, or hindi stance ang auto mo, so kine-question mo ngayon kung bakit ba talaga nila ginagawa ito sa kotse nila. Maraming old school na car enthusiasts na pag nakakita ng stance car for the first time, it's either they're amazed by it or nagiging sobrang confused sila. Iniisip nila, has the car been dropped off its axles? Flat ba yung gulong? How is this car still in roadworthy condition? Delikado ata i-drive yan. Pero most of the time, ang iniisip nila is, paano ba nila na-drive yung stance car na yan dito sa car show? And anong itsura niya when it drives away? Ang stance car ay hindi similar sa kotse na na-lowered lang. In motorsports, lower and wider ay isa sa keys to success on the track. Lowered center of gravity paired with a wide track does mean better handling. This has been adopted in many sports cars para sa ultimate driving experience. Ang pag-lower ng kotse and widening its footprint can improve its handling. Also, it gives it an excellent cornering feel. However, this has nothing to do with stance whatsoever. Lahat ng functionality goes straight out of the window in exchange for appearance. Para cool siya tignan at pwede na i-post sa TikTok habang nakapark. And this usually takes a lot of effort para ma-achieve yung stance. Ang basis ng stance culture, besides guaranteed na mahihirapan ka sa mga humps at sa mga drive-thrus, is ma-reduce yung clearance ng kotse. It's to create a clearance so low na kahit dahon sa daan will leave its mark beneath your bumper. Ingat din sa mga curbs kasi that will completely tear off your bumper. Sa car community, stance is by definition aggressive fitment of wheels and tires na combined with lowering your car para ma-achieve yung look. Basically, stance is the way a car sits. Some stance cars, okay, let's get real. Halos lahat ng stance cars ay sobrang lowered and modified to the point na napaka-challenging nila i-drive. So mas popular silang gawing show cars. That turns up sa mga car meets. Dito galing yung term na hard parked. While the car is hard to park in situations, this usually means that the car is mostly parked at car shows rather than being used for regular or performance driving. Basically, hard parked, nakapark siya kasi it's hard to do anything with the car, including driving. Look, I respect the stance boys out there kasi the amount of dedication and money it takes to keep your car looking that fresh is so much. It's just not my cup of tea, and I'm not hating. I respect them. Okay, now some basic stance vocabulary. Poke. When your rims poke out of your tire that's stretched so thin it barely covers the wheels. Tuck. When your car stands in a way that the top of your wheel looks like it's tucked under the fender. Bagged. When you've got air ride suspension in your stance. Static. Air rides are too expensive, so lowering springs na lang muna. Anyway, stance does give you a lot of street cred. And if nag-i-enjoy ka sa video na to so far, make sure you like this video para ma-push pa ni YouTube algorithm itong video na to more people who wanna stance their car. So, gusto mo matutunan kung paano gawin ito? So how do you actually stance your car? The best part of stancing your car is hindi mo kailangan ilagay yung pera mo into tuning your car's power. All of that nonsense goes out of the window. Kahit stock, pwedeng i-stance. Still interested? Well, here's how you stance your car. Step 1. Achieve aggressive fitment of wheels and tires. Aggressive fitment usually refers to kung gaano ka-extreme the wheel is to fit to the car and its fitting in relation sa fending ng kotse mo. Sa stance scene, the more extreme, the better. Enthusiasts lower their car as far as they can while running wide aftermarket wheels na may kasamang negative offset. It's all about pushing the limits of fitment. So, negative camber combined with stretch tires ang ginagamit to fit the wheels as close to or right up to the car's fender. Ma-achieve mo yung aggressive fitment by utilizing stretch tires, low offset, and wide wheels. So para ma-tuck in mo yung tires mo into your fender well. And have your wheels sit flush with the fender line. Kakailanganin mo ng stretch tires. Yung amount ng stretch is completely up to you. Yung term na flush or hella flush or poke or aggressive look are achieved at this point. Pwede mo din gamitan ng spacers para ma-fine-tune mo pa yung fitment. Wheel spacers and longer mounting hardware can push your wheels out to get that nice flush look. While the wheel is mounted, pwede mong i-measure from the rim lip to the fender and then grab the necessary spacers and extend the wheel studs to compensate. Pero onting warning lang, spacers and longer hardware are known to be unreliable and in some cases can cause damage to the hub if tinipid mo ito. So gumastos ka talaga just to be safe. Now, kung tingin mo your new look deserves some nice wheels, do your homework first. Kailangan mo i-calculate yung correct offset and wheel width na kailangan mo. Important ito para ma-make sure mo na yung bibilin mong wheels aren't too wide or too offset for your setup. Please don't shave your calipers or bits of your suspension. Step 2. Lowering your car. Sa step 1, pinag-usapan natin yung wheels and tires. Now let's take it up a notch. Kailangan mo i-tweak yung suspension mo so that the wheels and tires will sit flush with your fender. O out if gusto mo. Basically, kakailanganin mo palitan yung suspension mo and i-lower yung auto mo. Meron 3 paraan para gawin ito. The first way is by lowering springs. Ito ang pinaka-cost effective, yung lowering springs. Kasi ma-achieve mo yung lowered height gamit ito. Pero, the downside is, hindi mo ito ma-adjust. Stuck ka lang sa height na yon. This is what you call static. Kakailanganin mo din ng sports dampers kasi hindi ma-handle ng stock shocks yung lowered springs mo kasi they weren't built for that in the first place. Dito nagagaling yung mga kalampag at lagutok sa suspension mo over time. Now, the second way is getting a nice set of coilover suspension. Coilovers are the next step up pero it will cost you a little more. Pero most stance boys and girls usually think it's worth it kasi you get the damper and spring in one. And hindi ka limited to just one height. Static ka pa rin until i-jack up mo yung kotse mo at i-adjust mo yung ride height mo to whatever your heart desires. Popular choice ito amongst the stance crowd at hindi siya as expensive as the third way which we'll get to in just a second. Yung flush or hella flush and achieving some poke is usually harder to achieve with this option. Yes, you will earn more street cred in the stance community by going with this route. Pero it's definitely harder to achieve. Ang downside ng coilover suspension is that limited ka where you can drive your car. Magiging problema ang mga humps, potholes, street cracks, ramps, and any sort of incline whatsoever. Now, the third way of lowering your car is by getting a nice set of air suspension. Ito yung final option. Para sa mga ballers natin out there at may pera to invest in your stance journey, an air suspension system might be the one for you. This replaces your springs and shocks with airbags that are fed with the appropriate amount of air pressure needed para ma-achieve mo yung desired ride height mo. Kailangan mo ng air management system na usually mounted sa likod ng kotse. Most air systems are programmable, meaning pwede mong i-preset yung ride height na kailangan mo for different situations at pwede mo silang palitan with the press of a button. Maraming maiinggit sa'yo na stance boys and girls kasi unlike them, you can drive over humps by just adjusting your ride height on the fly. You can also achieve a better level of flush when parked up kasi you can lower your car more this way. So, no need to take your wheel off and adjust your ride height like coilovers. If gusto mo pa ng mas lower, you can decide to camber. Negative camber will move the top of your wheels inwards. This allows them to be tucked inside your fenders. But excessive camber can cause abnormal tire wear at, in some cases, suspension problems. So make sure na i-check mo din yung gulong mo at suspension mo before it's too late. And now, that leaves us with a question. Delikado ba ang mga stance cars? Yes, alam natin na stancing your car can give your car that cool look. But if you're not careful, this can cause major issues. Yung mga kotse na binibenta to regular consumers ay hindi race cars. Para maging superior ang handling ng isang kotse, engineers lower and widen the car stance, and they reinforce the hubs and bearings. Nire-redesign nila yung geometry ng suspension to compensate. So, by maxing out your coilover and overcambering can upset the factory suspension geometry that the manufacturer feels will provide the best steering response. Minsan, pag ginalaw mo yung factory stock setup ng kotse mo to an extreme degree, can leave you with a less responsive and less stable steering. Minsan, may increased body roll din. So, habang you're keeping your deep dish wheels polished and clean, you'll have to worry about all of that rubbing without any of that clearance. Depende din sa size ng bump or hole sa kalsada you just drove over. Mas may greater chance na mas madamage yung wheels and tires mo. Hindi lang yon, damage to your rim, fender, and tire sidewall all becomes a concern. Also yung stretched tires, say hello to an increased chance of debeading. And to top it off, yung camber look leads to decreased contact your tires have with the road. So, ibig sabihin, less traction, less grip. So, is stancing your car really dangerous? Well, limited ability to drive on roads, going over humps, at may possibility na masira yung bumper mo, or blowing a tire, is honestly no more dangerous than adding more horsepower to your car. Nakadepende pa rin yan syempre sa driver. It's no more dangerous than adding lots of horsepower to our car tapos magkakarera on public roads. In fact, even stock regular cars can be dangerous pag kamote yung driver. Actually, mas may chance ka pa nga ma-involved in a fatal accident in a race car than a stance car kasi yun nga, you can't drive anywhere. Joke lang. Either way, I still love stance cars. Not sure though if gagawin ko ito sa sarili kong kotse. Pero natututunan na din ng mga stance enthusiasts na mag-drive lower and slower para ma-express nila yung creativity nila and individuality nila in tuning. Takbong pogi. Hindi ka makakakita ng mga stance cars na nilalamon yung mga corners sa racetrack. Instead, you'll see them cruising to car meets. Para sa kanila, stance is all about standing out and getting reactions and expressing their individuality. Stance has its own special place in the car community. Despite the haters, hindi lahat ay trip ito. Kanya-kanyang trip yan. We should learn to appreciate stance cars for their style, creativity, and craftsmanship over function. It's a source of personal expression. Stance is an art. So if gusto mo i-stance yung kotse mo, go ahead. It's your car. Make sure lang na you're doing it properly and you know what you're getting yourself into. So ikaw, ano ang opinion mo sa mga stance cars? Trip mo ba ito or hindi? Comment mo below. Also, if you enjoyed this video, baka ma-enjoy mo itong video na to from last time where I talked about how to be a proper car enthusiast. And with that being said, thanks for watching, keep safe, and I'll see you on the next video.